Good morning and welcome to today's panel discussion on the implementation of AI within property management processes. I'm Aaliyah Pollock, a data and technology analyst at the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, also known as RICS. And my role here involves examining the impacts of data and technology on the built and natural environments. With a heritage of over 150 years, RICS sets standards for more than 130,000 members and candidates engaged in the development and management of land, real estate, construction and infrastructure. And our mission is to advance knowledge, uphold standards and inspire professionals across the built environment. As an organisation deeply invested in real estate, property management is an important area for us. Effective property management not only ensures the optimal performance and value of real estate assets, but also enhances tenant satisfaction and supports our overarching sustainability goals. The introduction of AI into property management processes is opening up new avenues for efficiency, predictive maintenance, and data-driven decision-making, which are transforming the way properties are managed. I'd like to thank our panelists for joining us today. Now, I'll move on from me and move on to our panelists. So, David, let's start with you.
Good morning, all. My name is David Graydon. I'm the owner of Classic Folios and Spaciable. We very much in the customer service aspect of all property management around residential, market leaders in the UK for what we do. I've been in prop tech for probably 13 years. My background is management consulting, banking, private equity, government advisory, all sorts of different things. So really great to be on the panel this morning.
Rob, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi, I'm Robert Corley. I head up the team at Gigabyte Software, and we've been building bespoke technology for property management for over 18 years. And yeah, excited to chat about AI today.
Kasia?
Hello everyone, I'm Katarzyna Szmurlo-Sirbu, founder and CEO of Aiden. Quickly about myself, before founding Aiden, I spent a decade in the real estate industry, gaining expertise across various asset classes. I began my career at Westfield, where I focused on shopping center management and then moved on to a private equity firm as a CEO, where I managed a diverse portfolio of real estate, focusing on offices, residential and industrial properties. And this inspired me to found Aiden. In short, Aiden is an AI property management assistant focusing on 3 areas. First, automating tenant interactions, then automating the ticketing process, as well as providing property managers with actionable recommendations. And I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Kurt.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Kurt Lyall. I'm General Manager for LoftyWorks. We started up the company, I was the founder in January 2020, and about 2 years ago we became part of a US group called Lofty Inc., which is sort of number 2, number 3 in the US for real estate CRM sales. And we've been building out now a property management solution, LoftyWorks, here in the UK and in the US. And yeah, like everyone else, very happy to be talking about AI today.
Thank you everyone for the introductions. Now let's start our discussion off by going straight down to the basics and exploring the current landscape of property management. So as we're all probably aware, property management is a very complex field, especially as we look at the different challenges that arise within residential properties, new builds, leasehold management. So whether it's dealing with tenant issues, maintenance, or navigating the complexities of regulations, property managers are tasked with ensuring that properties are effectively run and well maintained, while also adapting to the evolving needs of the market. So David, I'll start with you just to give a bit of an idea to the audience. What issues are you facing specifically with new builds and flats?
Yeah, look, it's a very long list of problems with new builds, but you know, there's planning, environmental, labor shortage, all sorts of things. But you know, we are talking about technology, so let's quickly hone in on the technology aspects. I guess what I always see is that that what are we up to? The iPhone 15 now, I think, and we still seem to be delivering a iPhone 1 as far as new builds go, and the technology suite around what customers get. So, you know, there is a big gap there between what we're using nowadays, technology-wise, and what's actually being delivered. And, you know, for the last 200 years, we've sort of been hacking out a box, two bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. And there's a lot of aspects in AI, you know, starting that big wave that will actually change that landscape quite a lot. And I think more than anywhere, it sort of pains me. I was just reading yesterday actually in the BBC about a council that was having issues delivering their what they're trying to do. And you know, there's some really easy technology answers in you know, the mold side and all sorts of different sides that could be actually applied to new builds. And certainly that's where we're focusing in Spaciable, in applying technology and AI to those solutions. So I think, you know, there's a lot of areas in new builds, and then there's, you know, the onboarding and at scale and making sure that people can use technology. But I can talk about that further.
Thanks, Rob. I'll move on to you. We'll try and follow on in this order. So we've spoken previously, Rob, about your experience with leasehold management. Would you be able to elaborate on this area and just highlight a little bit of the unique challenges that?
Yeah, I mean, it links in with what David's saying about the technology being quite old. I mean, the leasehold sector itself is a niche sector if you compare it to the size of you know, of something like lettings, which means that it's not a huge opportunity, right, for a big software provider to build tech for. So a lot of the ERP systems that are servicing the leasehold industry, the main systems that these companies are using is tech that sort of started development 10, 15 years ago. So I think that the core technologies that a lot of the organizations are using are fairly old, maybe not that ripe for integrations with some of the new technologies that you know, the likes of some of the people here are producing for the market.
And Cassia, moving on to you, what do you think the main challenges are that you see within residential property management?
So I would like to move back to like the very basics, and there I see 3 main challenges. First of all, we have high workload. Secondly, difficulties to hire skilled employees, and then lack of harmony between the stakeholders. Looking deeper at the high workload, there's an overwhelming amount of the small repetitive tasks that property managers do manually, and those could be automated. As an example, we have property managers checking documents and entering the data into ERP systems still manually. Then regarding the hiring difficulties, the job is quite demanding and quite stressful. Yet often not very well paid, making it quite hard to attract and retain skilled employees. And also, when we look at the new generations, younger generations, they are more attracted to digital fields than traditional fields like property managers. So the deficit in property management is growing. And last but not least, that's my favorite one, there is a massive issue with lack of harmony between the parties. So residents are usually quite disappointed with property managers since those are often not available, not reachable, whereas property managers have such a high workload that they just try to keep up with their to-do lists and don't really get the time to respond to all the calls they get. And it is very clear to me that in order to overcome these challenges, the industry must open to change and embrace technology, especially now with great opportunities with AI.
Thank you. That's a very good point, trying to find that balance between maintaining personal services and also managing a very busy workload. But Kurt, we'll move on to you. Given your experience in the property management sector, what key trends do you see shaping the future of property management?
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, it's an interesting question in terms of sort of future trends that are coming through. I think for me, one of the areas is just really the pressure that property managers are under to deliver a property management service for a management fee. So I know most landlords will look at property managers and agents and say, you know, they're paying a large percentage, but that percentage is getting absorbed in a lot of costs for those property managers. And so we see, you know, property managers trying to deliver a service, they're trying to make a profit, but it's pretty tough, right? And there's a lot of downward pressure. Like right now here in the UK market, here in 1st of August, when we're doing the recording here, you know, there are sort of there's a constraint on property sales. So more agents are now looking to move into the rental business to take on property management. More supply gives more downward pressure. People are willing to operate at lower margins. But good property management needs really good processes. It needs a good team. It needs everything in place. So, you know, in terms of sort of future trends, I think for the agents that want to be delivering property management, this is mainly for residential. For the agents that want to be delivering really good property management, they've just got to have a scalable platform, a platform that is giving them the ability to operate at the profit point and the pricing point for what the market is demanding, but also a system that can help them kind of navigate and mitigate kind of risks, right? So this property management service, there's ever more regulation that's in place to protect the tenants, to protect landlords, in terms of the property manager in the middle there can be hit with claims if they don't do the right process. They can't, at the moment, evict people. You know, there's lots of risks around it. So for me, the bits that I think in the future, while, you know, definitely AI is it's kind of like a very topical subject right now, and I think it's going to definitely transform how property management gets done. But for me, it's around helping those agents be scalable as a trend. If they're not scalable, they can't operate at the margin, they won't survive. And then how they operate in a way that doesn't mean that they trip up themselves. So quite often a landlord might move to an agent and expect a great service, and it's only like 1 year might be okay. The second year, the agent makes a mistake, landlord moves on to another agent. And so you've kind of got this constant change of how to hang on to your landlords as well as a property manager. So all of those things come together. It's around managing risk, and it's around operating a low, you know, an efficient business that can reduce your costs.
I mean, we've all mentioned here how technology can help all of these problems that the industry is facing. Where do we all see technology today within the industry? Are we evolving at the same pace as other industries?
I can go. I think property's always seen as a laggard as far as technology goes, and the other panelists have mentioned quite a few areas that you know, has caused that. Small margins, people extremely busy. Not saying that we're not busy in other industries, but there is a real worry about technology adoption and you know, where to start and where to go, and what to choose. And Kurt talked about the risk there, opening yourself up to more risk, where you could just, you know, keep doing what you're doing and keep your head down. So yeah, I think there's quite a few different areas like that.
Okay, thanks, David. Leading on from this point, so now that we've covered the very basics of the current landscape of property management, let's focus on one of the most talked topics in the industry today, the adoption of AI and technology. So while technology offers huge potential to industries like property management, adoption isn't always so straightforward, and it brings forth its own set of challenges, as you've just mentioned, David and Kurt. So Cassia, I'll start with you on this point, because I know you've got some strong views on this. We often see a reluctance within the industry to embrace these technologies. Can you expand on this resistance to change, and why you think the industry has skipped over this digital era?
Sure, thanks. Well, so first on the reasoning, I think there is quite a fear of change and technology in general. So many property managers are worried of altering established processes and systems, and often they do not trust technology, especially AI can be tricky. And secondly, they have a massive workload, and the high workload leaves property managers with little time to learn about new solutions, as well as obviously to implement them. However, I think there is also quite a great potential with that, because the industry is in general lagging behind, including property management. And big part of the industry still operates very manually, especially the smaller companies, often working with printed documents, having like, big physical folders, walls that they go through every day and spend a lot of time on that. And this is again the result of the reluctance to change and embracing new solutions. And as much as this part brings quite some challenges, it also brings opportunities. Of course, we cannot skip digitalization in total. Like if you have physical folders, they have to be scanned and digitalized. However, as an example, when you look at few years back, there was this big hype of everybody or bigger companies developing the tenant apps. Many of them implemented it, however, many skipped that part. Then the apps appeared to be fairly ineffective since not many tenants even download them. Now, the companies who haven't taken that step stay in front of an opportunity to directly choose AI assistants who can then pretty much replace property management part across different channels in many languages and any type. So this step from manual work directly into AI automation can have a double or even further amplified effect on efficiency gains, and hence can strongly contribute to offsetting hiring difficulties and restoring harmony as well.
Okay, I'm just going to focus on that point you mentioned about data. I think not even within property management, across all industries, but especially the built and natural environment, there's huge issues around data, this being data quality, standardization, collaboration. So Rob, I'll move across to you. What do you see as the key prerequisites for adopting AI and similar technologies, and why is having digital data so important in this process?
So, yeah, I mean, prerequisites. I think there are quite a lot of prerequisites. There's a lot of sexy technology coming out, right, with machine learning, large language models. But often the prerequisite for adopting this is something very much less sexy than that. Some basic digital transformation. We work with organizations who still have individual inboxes for each property manager, you know what I mean, across managing hundreds of sites. So how do you apply AI to that, right? When you haven't kind of got all of your data in one place. So I think sometimes there's some basic digital transformation. It might be scanning in documents. It might be putting files into the cloud. It might be consolidating inboxes. This kind of boring stuff before you can start to use some of this technology. And then other prerequisites, some of the, like in leasehold management, because that's where our focus is, a lot of the systems are much older, so the integration there can be tricky. So sometimes you need to actually build some what we call robotic process automation to kind of behave like a human, to build an integration for something that maybe doesn't have an API. And yeah, this is a lot less fun and sexy than some of the shiny new tooling, but is often a prerequisite for sort of integrating that shiny new tooling.
Thanks, Rob. Kurt, I'll move on to you. So speaking to people in my job now, I come across a very common issue, and it's that often organizations are, like Rob just said, adopting the most sexy technology, jumping to the most advanced solution for very simple problems, and then they're unhappy with the output. How do we ensure that organizations are applying the best technology to the right problem?
Yeah, that's it's a really interesting question to ask. I think it sort of comes down to the quality of the marketing team that are selling in that solution as well, and whether that client is actually ready for it. I think, as Rob said, it's around sort of change management and whether the company has the resources actually to deal with the change. So, you know, in residential, most businesses I'm dealing with are relatively small businesses. You know, they're small teams looking after a portfolio of properties. They haven't got a change manager. They've not got the experience of procuring, you know, flashy software. They are people that are used to dealing with people interactions as property managers, or they're used to, you know, helping sell properties, let properties, for instance. They don't have that skill set. So, you know, in terms of how do you sort of match the right solution to the right problem, I think it's, you know, it's down to the industry really to have a conscience and make sure that they're doing the right thing by selling the right product to people. And, you know, if our own journey, for instance, I can tell you we've been on, we're happy to say no to clients. If we think it's not the right fit, we'll say no, because we know that it will lead to dissatisfaction later down the road if they take a solution and it's not going to be right for them. And yeah, I think that's for me, that's the best way to find a solution, is have the confidence. If you're you know, if you're in the business of providing these solutions, to have the confidence to know when it is right to sell something and when it isn't right to sell something, because generally the clients on the other side, they are not experts in this. They don't have expert IT people. They don't have change managers. And so they're looking, yeah, they're just looking for what they feel is going to be a right solution. And they only know that sort of 6 months later, once they've written the check and they've either got a solution or they've got a problem.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's actually something that we do a lot with our clients, right? Is helping them procure a software and actually jumping in on calls with people like yourself, Kurt, and just helping them make that decision, because yeah, very often it's a slick sales pitch, right, about a piece of software, and often it's the devil's in the detail. It's some detail about that software that means that it's kind of not suitable for the problem that they're trying to attack with it.
Rob, do you think sometimes solutions are too complicated?
Yes, I think some solutions have been complicated, and some are just not very well thought out. We were working with a client last week who had come to us with a problem of dealing with invoices from suppliers, right? So the problem of keying in all the information, and they want to push that out to the supplier with a portal. And they'd found a solution that was allowed the suppliers to email in their invoices, and it was going to scan those automatically using AI. The problem is that just hadn't been very well implemented. So there was a whole bunch of junk because the suppliers would just email anything into that, right? So the quality of the data that came out the other side of it was so low, it was actually taking them more time to sift through all of that than it was just doing it manually before. So yeah, the devil's always in the detail.
Actually, last year we ran our Tech Partner Survey 2024, and we found that one of the biggest problems to adopting technology and AI, it was this behavioural resistance to change, but also this fear of complexity, fear of not making a return on investment. And I think that just touches on a few of them points. David, I'll move across to you. Is there any other challenges to the adoption of AI data and technology that you're seeing in the industry that we haven't previously mentioned?
Yeah, I'll pick up a lot of Rob's and Kurt's points, but you know, it's from my consulting days as well, and how we run. It's really about understanding the customer. What are their pain points? What are their needs? What are they trying to achieve? And strip back the product. Sometimes we, you know, and Kurt talked about slick marketing teams, and I was there going, oh no, not slick marketing teams, but you know, people overpromise. They you know, throw too much tech at it, and it's important to strip down back that tech and really concentrate on what you're trying to deliver, with, as Rob was talking about. And tech, look, it's only as effective as the people using it. So, you know, what Kurt was saying about the change management, highly critical, adequate training, ongoing support. You know, we work in an industry with a high staff turnover, and people aren't used to tech. So, you know, that change management piece and supporting the customer through that journey, once you've worked out that that your tech is right for them and what they're trying to achieve, highly critical. I think also with a lot of startups, there's a lot of pressure from VCs and others to make a return. So, you know, it is those slick marketing teams that are getting in there and over promising. And I think the thing is that startups work along the lines of minimal viable product, you know, deliver what you can and then let the customer shape, which is a very hard thing, I think, in the property industry, because you know, it is extremely large amounts of money. We're talking rent, we're talking, you know, buying properties, the most expensive thing that you've ever bought, and people need products that are actually, you know, quite deliverable, not full of holes or over promises. And I think when it comes to, you know, having a look at what tech is right for your business, you know, do look beyond what they're saying on the marketing side. Do look beyond the case studies. Go and talk to customers that have used their tech and what the problems and what they've been able to do with it. I do, you know, we go into a lot of clients that have been overpromised and haven't had the support and it hasn't delivered. And, you know, a lot of it is, you know, going with a solution that is been in the industry and is well thought out, well rounded, and you know, hits those pain points for the customers, I would suggest.
Just a question to everyone. We've all mentioned how, well, we've mentioned that the industry is reluctant to change and that we don't actually even have that foundational data there for this change. What is everyone's thoughts on the industry? Are we ready for this change? Should it happen now?
I would say it has to happen. I've mentioned to you like what kind of problems we struggle with in the industry. I come from the industry in Germany, but to my knowledge, it's a common problem across the Western countries in Europe. So there is no choice. It's either ignoring the problems that are there and letting them pile up, or embracing the change.
Yeah, I think the companies that embrace the change will be the ones that prevail, right? So the ones that are laying the groundwork now to get their data in order so that they can adopt some of these new technologies are the ones that will end up surviving. Yeah, particularly as AI gets better and better.
Yeah, I mean, I can just chip in terms of what we're seeing. I think it was David or Rob made the point earlier that a lot of the systems out there are pretty old at the moment. You know, we see clients, you know, once something's working, it's sort of, if you touch it, you've got a risk of might break something or might not work. But if you've got data that's stuck in a very old system, a siloed system, it's very hard to kind of get that out. So you can kind of move forward and adopt something new. And so for those clients, it's almost like they've got to take a step to a platform or a foundation that's going to give them where that data can then be exposed and made easily available, you know, particularly to things like AI in the future. And so almost like that step requires them to sort of make a bit of a leap of faith at the beginning. You know, that's what we're finding. So some clients feel they're ready to do that. That's like the first enabler to then kind of allow them to move on and start to adopt this new technology.
Well, thanks everyone for sharing your insights on the challenges of adopting AI and technology and the wider challenges within the industry. Now, while these challenges are significant, there are definitely ways to overcome them. As we've mentioned, we've touched on a few points, which leads us on to our next part of the discussion around how we overcome these obstacles and use technology to enhance property management processes. Despite the potential of technology, we often hear about it undelivering on promises, and this can be frustrating for those who invest their time and resources into new solutions. So, David, I'll pose this question to you. Why do you think technology often undelivers on its promises, and how can we address this issue?
Yeah, I think we've talked through a lot of it actually already, and it's probably just referencing back to that. you know, pressures of investors, you know, companies that are trying to achieve something on the technology side quickly. You know, Kurt talked about the skill sets involved in change. You know, that's highly important. Different expectations from a customer on what's going to be achieved with what the technology provider can provide. So there's a, you know, I guess there's a myriad of different things that we've sort of already referenced on, you know, on that. How does it get addressed? Let's talk about the positive side. I think the other panelists have talked about the time is now to start getting those building blocks in place. I think, you know, AI is coming. Look, we all work in technology and getting incredibly excited about it. We're all tech geeks, and probably a lot of your listeners will be there going, oh God, another lot of tech geeks who are talking about tech. But you know, from what I'm seeing, and I'm sure the others will reference this, there is a large scale change coming, and we're already seeing it in other industries, that if you don't adopt it, if you don't move at that speed, you're going to get left behind. And you know, I'm seeing this in what we're starting to look at, on what can be automated and what can be delivered if you get it in the right, you know, if you get the building blocks there. You know, there's some big gains to be made. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be still charging, you know, or not making the profit that technology will allow you to make.
Thanks, David. So, Rob, we've spoken previously about tech sometimes being very complex. So, in your experience, can you provide some examples of how AI has been used in its simplest terms to improve property management?
Yeah, I mean, I quite like to take a broad definition of AI, right, which is a computer doing anything that is human-like. So this encompasses more simple systems than the shiny, sexy machine learning models and large language models that we've seen since sort of ChatGPT came out. But includes more basic things like rule-based systems. And yeah, a good, very specific example of this is we worked with an organization, property management company, who were using inbox folders, right, to file all of their emails for all of the blocks that they managed. And just a simple little bit of AI that looks at each folder in that inbox and suggests which folder an incoming email should go into. So literally just triaging an inbox, which is something that is really not that sexy at all. But that saves a lot of time and also organizes some data that then means that you're ready to maybe adopt some other technology, which is a bit more sexy, which might be around, I don't know, generating a suggested reply to that email, right? If you've got them all organized by block, then you can give the AI that context of everything to do with that building historically, to then suggest replies to.
So, Rob, just leading on to that point, are you saying that you think the best way to move forward is for organizations to take that small step and slowly adopt the technology?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think it's different in different organizations, right? Because they're all at different stages of adoption of technologies. We've worked with some companies who are printing out invoices, having them stamped on someone's desk and then scanning them back in, right? So that's at like one extreme end. And so, yeah, I think there's some digital transformation that needs to happen in some organizations before they're sort of ripe for introducing some of these new technologies. And I think some of them are probably ready to adopt them now. And I think, you know, property management is kind of split. I think a lot of technology for management of a flat for lettings, there is some nice ERP systems for that. I don't think that really is the case in leasehold management.
So, leading on from Rob's point, Kurt, I'll move on to you. How aware do you think the industry is of these more simple solutions? Obviously, with this new wave of AI, how aware are the industry of the smaller, simpler solutions that can help their everyday problems?
I would say pretty unaware at the moment from from the conversations that we have. I think there are some good first steps that can definitely be taken. It comes down to sort of proof points and proof cases. I think particularly around AI, there's a lot of noise out there, but the sort of tangible steps that kind of Rob talked about need to be turned into case studies, need to be kind of clear return on investment arguments around it in order to sort of justify it, to kind of get the rest of the industry behind it. Certainly, where we're dealing with on the residential agent side, they very much operate as a community, and if they see other agents getting success from something, then they kind of learn from them and they'll want to adopt. In terms of sort of does this industry look at latest IT news publications for AI technology? They're not looking there. They're looking for simple references. What's my competitor doing? What is my best friend who's in a different part of the UK doing? How are they adopting it? So, I think that sort of ties into this industry just moves at a slightly slower pace. But there are, exactly as Rob says, there are some really good first steps that could get it going. But it needs a clear proof case behind it, and it needs a bold, trusting agent or property manager to be willing to give it a try.
Thank you, Kurt. You touched on some really good points there, and I think you might answer some of my next points in this question now. So, Cassia, I'll move on to you. So we've all mentioned this behavioural resistance to change. The attitude within the industry is very conservative. We've all got very conservative mindsets. We don't want to change the way we work, and there's a very there's very slow progression and innovation. So if we need to start now, how do we change the mindset of people? Should the adoption of data and technology be forced, and how do we encourage it?
Well, I think as tech companies, there are some things that we can do. I think David mentioned a very important point, like building this trust with potential clients or clients with property managers, and really focusing on their needs and fears. Needs and fears. And a good example, maybe in Germany, data protection, data processing, it's a massive topic, especially now with AI. Many people are concerned of data leaks and so on. So what we do is not only to answer it in the way that we follow the best market practice, but also proactively approach our clients and tell them hey, your data is in the safe hands, right? And this is what we do in order to achieve that, which gives them a sense of security. Another point I would say is, as tech companies, what we can do is definitely to decrease the barriers of entry and embracing technology to the minimum. So creating tech solutions that are pretty much designed for the property management industry reduces the time and also financial investment required to set up and to implement the solutions, allowing property managers to pretty much implement something without massive disruption of their daily operations. And with AI, actually, the process can be sped up. So, for example, looking at digitalizing contracts, lease agreements. Before, you would have to pretty much copy paste the clauses, and now AI can read the contract and summarize it for you, right? So that makes everything faster. But back around changing the mindset, I think initiatives like yours can bring a massive value, bringing the technology closer to people, explaining it, making it less scary and more approachable. And I would also love to use this opportunity to encourage industry representatives, decision makers, to just take their time and go out there, evaluate the solutions. If something looks promising, I think it's important not to make it a big deal or a big decision straight away. What's possible is to do small scale testing, maybe choose one asset, one building, and try it there, evaluate the results, and based on that, make the decision. And even if something doesn't look good and they don't believe in it, there is always an option to give feedback. And at the end, like, technology companies live from feedback because we want to cooperate, we want to deliver the best value possible. And only having feedback, even if it's negative, we can deliver that, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Just a final question on this topic, open to everyone. What do you think the role of professional bodies play in this, like the RICS? Should they be doing more to encourage the adoption of technology, and should they be setting standards on data quality? What should we be doing?
I can go first if you want. Yeah, you talk data standards, actually standards across the piece. You know, it's a lot easier to implement a technology solution if you've got, you know, set formats of data and other standards. So yeah, absolutely. I think also, you know, I talked about that there is just so much to choose from, and you sort of, you know, you sort of don't know where to start. And I think you guys have got a, you know, a great role in doing that. And I think you mentioned that you know, you did the tech survey and other areas. So yeah, for sure. And it's also, I think the other bit as well is providing, and I know you do, you know, training and courses to get people up to speed on the ever changing world of technology. It's just moving so fast, so upskilling and up getting your members up to speed is something really critical as well. So yeah, that absolutely. I think a members organization is a little bit of a cheat sheet for you know, your members out there.
So as we look forward, it's clear that AI presents not just challenges, but also significant opportunities to enhance the property management industry as a whole. So let's begin by exploring how AI can improve the overall experience within the industry. Rob, I'll start with you. In terms of tenant communication, managing the emotional aspects can be particularly challenging. How do you see AI helping in this regard? And also, how do we balance the need for a more personal experience and the need for a more automated tenant experience?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a very good example here, which is actually from short-term letting, but I think resi property management encompasses short-term, long-term, and building management. But yeah, we were working with a company who take on the sort of communication aspect of short-term lets, and one of the problems that they have onboarding is that the hosts that have been running those short-term lets have been doing the communication themselves, right? And there's lots of detail about their property or about their local area that they've been communicating about, and they're like, how is somebody going to be able to replace that, you know, without me spending a year training them? So we basically built a system that reads all the conversation history that they've ever sent to their guests, and then AI will basically generate a reply in exactly the tone with all of the detail and nuance that the original host was sending it with. However, this wasn't implemented as an automated response system. It's still got a human that sits and reviews. And I think that's a very good point. Like, until we reach AGI, you know, I don't think that AI is going to be replacing humans. I think that it's a tool for humans to use to do a lot of the legwork, you know. So now you don't have to spend a lot of time drafting that message or looking up the details in a manual or looking back through history to see what was said in response to that question last time. You can simply have a draft in front of you that has all of that information on, review it, and then send it. And the other thing that does is it removes you slightly from the emotion, right? If you've got somebody that's difficult on the other end of that, and you've got a tool that's doing that initial drafting, then it means that you're not fully dragged into, right, reading all of the details of some angry message and then having to write the professional response back, right? There's someone doing that first draft for you. So it becomes more like a game, right, where you've got an angry person on one end, and you've got AI to help you draft a response on this end. So yeah, I think that it will just change the way that people are working rather than replace them.
Thank you very much, Rob. That's a very good point. That leads us on to our next question. Cassia, you've mentioned a lot about how there's no harmony within the industry. And leading on from Rob's point, how do you see AI restoring this harmony and reducing stress?
Yeah. So basically nowadays, lack of time for property managers often hinders them from effective communication with tenants, particularly in the residential space. And property managers often have so much to do that they can only afford being reactive and not proactive, which is expected from the tenant side. Now, with AI, a lot of tasks of property managers can be automated, ensuring smoother and faster running business. Maybe as an example, let's say nowadays an elevator is broken. What happens? One of the tenants reaches out to call the company. Usually they don't reach them, right? Slowly the irritation is there. Then they write an email, do not receive any response. They have no clue if someone is taking care of that. Next step, 5 other tenants notice the same thing and are bombarding the property managers with phone calls, emails, etc. The pressure, the lack of harmony is increasing. You can almost feel the tension. Then someone comes back home, bought some water on the way, and finds out the elevator is broken, has to carry that stairs, right? Everybody's upset. At the same time, on the side of the property managers, they are trying to arrange someone to go as soon as possible to the building. They are trying to arrange the elevator company to fix the problem while being overwhelmed with all these calls. Now, imagine the same situation with AI. So the first tenant noticing the issue writes a quick message over WhatsApp or so, gets automatic response, we are taking care of the issue. The property manager on the other side gets a ticket saying, hey, there is an urgent topic. With one click, manages to ask the facility manager to come by as soon as possible. With second click, asks for commissions an external company. With third click, pretty much informs all of the other tenants, hey, there is an issue with the elevator, we are taking care of it. Now, probably the person buying the water would reconsider, right? And automatically, by speeding up these processes and making them really easy, the tension disappears. So how I see it, that the biggest value in AI experience in regard to restoring the harmony and reducing stress is the consistent and importantly proactive communication and ability to act fast with minimal effort. So finally being able also to meet the needs of the tenants.
So thank you very much. David, building upon this, how do you see the role of property managers evolving with the integration of AI? Specifically, how do you think AI will impact the way property managers handle the day-to-day operations and make decisions?
Yeah, we talked, I think Rob started and Cassie went on to it. We talked about the relationship between the tenant and the property manager. And what we find is that, I speak to clients and they go, well, we want to do things personalized and we want to be, a face and in front of the person. But actually today, a lot of people like that 24/7 being able to communicate and being able to deal with problems and issues. And it doesn't necessarily have to be face to face. There's going to be a lot of clients that do want a face-to-face service, but that allows it to to be concentrating on those clients that really want that that face-to-face sort of service. And I think the other all the other panelists have talked about the automation aspects. Deal with those things that are costing you a lot of time and automate them. And we've all talked about from a technology point of view, but if I was a CEO in a property management business, or your CEO is asking you, what are you doing on the AI side? It's really about evaluating what takes you a lot of time. And Kurt, Rob had referenced the bits about, what are those quick wins how do I build trust, the change management aspects within the organization? How do I show my CEO that there is, opportunities there to reduce cost and create a better customer service? So, I think the role of, coming back to your question, the role of the property manager will change a lot and through automation, and that will allow them, as you said, being more proactive, being able to deal with the things that are important while everything happens in the background as much as possible.
Just to lead on to a point you mentioned there about the role of a property manager changing, do you think that this will attract new people into the role of property management? And do you think it will deter people from pursuing a career in property management when they've been so stuck in their ways of doing things relatively old school? How do you think it will impact those working specifically in this role?
There's an interesting thing that they said by Kasia earlier, which was a lot of the younger generation wants to move to tech and wants to be part of tech. I think that's where we've got, property may have a chance to attract some of that talent and young talent, is actually, let's turn this into more of a tech business rather than how we're operating at the moment. So how do we attract those people that are really going to transform the industry and your business? Make it more about tech, give those interns, go out and have a look at that tech, see how it can be applied, create those quick wins, and show me what you can do. And I think that they're going to feel very empowered by being able to transform an organization, and also, people are going to understand that they're actually a very important cog of the business as that tech gets applied and the wins happen.
I add one point to that. When we started our company, we were interviewing a lot of property managers, try to understand their issues. And that was like almost 100 property managers. All of them, without an exception, said that their biggest problem in their job is the stress connected to communication with tenants, especially in the residential space, because tenants are often stressed. They think things should have been done yesterday. They expect a lot what property managers realistically cannot deliver nowadays. So getting rid, so to say, of this issue can attract definitely new people.
Yeah, leading on to both of them points, I was at a conference and someone said that if we as an industry don't adopt this change now, then we're going to lose the talent of the future to industries such as those that are thriving, like healthcare and fintech. So I think it's a very good point. I think we do need to start adopting this technology today and encourage it and embrace this innovative culture. So one final question to you, Kurt. So as we're all aware, sustainability is becoming increasingly important, especially within property management, with drivers coming from both government and from tenants. So how do you see AI contributing to sustainability efforts such as energy efficiency or waste management, for example? How do you see that within properties?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. The environmental impact, again, of these properties, particularly properties that are being rented, for instance. The landlords, their units to kind of get a return, get a yield on. You're not, it's not the property that you might necessarily own, and you're looking to bring in heat pumps, bring in solar, bring in battery tech, those type of things. Really, there's so much you can do to a property, but generally, if you're looking at a rental unit, you're looking at what's the minimum investment that I need to do for that property to meet the regulation, right? So in terms of asking, well, where does AI fit into that? I think it's like a regulation thing, really. If you want to improve the environment for people renting properties, particularly in residential, it needs to be led by regulation, and the solutions are typically physical solutions, not necessarily digital solutions, and they need to become cheaper and easier to install. to make the barriers sort of easier to do. In terms of the AI piece, you know, it's an interesting question. I wasn't kind of necessarily thinking of its application in that space, but I can definitely see it could have a role in starting to collect the data from units that are, like, what is it? Okay, I've installed this heat pump, or I've installed this solar. What is it actually doing for me? If AI can help in that respect to sort of make it easy to consume and understand that, it'd have a role. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on the topic.
Quickly to Kurt's answer there. The building management systems that we start to get in the bigger residential tower blocks, there has been some work around that, and I know there was a commercial building that, with the use of AI, has saved, I think, around 30% on their heat bills. So usually we do, things do get implemented in commercial buildings, though. So keep an eye on those sides and see what has the ROI, the return on investment. But it's a huge potential area, and you're seeing some really good, not only AI but also other tech solutions. The smart windows and all sorts of other interesting tech coming into that space as well.
David, just building on that point, as you mentioned, there's use cases in commercial real estate. How long and what will make this be applied within residential real estate?
I think commercial's always had more money in a way per seat or per customer, and that allows, and that goes from a customer experience, sustainability, air quality, or environment, and I think it's always important to have a look at what's happening in that space. How quickly will it be adopted? I think you need to bring it back to the residential experience and understanding what can be applied, between the commercial and the residential side. And there'll be things there that you can look at, and the heat pumps and the building management systems, with AI included. There is a very good ROI case for that, that can be added to the residential side. So and I think members organizations, again, like yourselves, that have people across areas, or you can build cross groups, when you're doing your webinars or in person sort of events, that cross pollination of ideas between commercial resi and even retail and other elements of property, is a really important factor for members organizations like yourselves.
So thanks everyone, and thanks David for that answer. So it's been a very fascinating discussion today, and it's evident that AI holds significant potential to transform property management, offering opportunities to enhance efficiency and improve decision making, and ultimately offering a better service to tenants. However, as we've discussed, the path to benefiting from these technological advancements involves overcoming huge challenges. I'd like to thank our panelists for their valuable contributions today. Your insights provided us with a deeper understanding of both the current landscape and future opportunities that AI presents within property management. Also, to our audience, thank you for joining this discussion. We hope that it has been informative and thought-provoking, and hopefully leads on to some positive conversations. As a key takeaway, let's continue the conversation beyond this panel and encourage the adoption of AI and other technologies so that we can move forward as an industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.